Travel along, Catholic pilgrims, as we learn from St. Augustine, Doctor of the Church, while we read his book, Confessions. Hello, and welcome to another day. Again, today we are hearing about how things start to unravel for St. Augustine with regards to Manichaeism. We will find our reading on page 95, Book 5, Chapter 5. But who asked that any Manichae should write about science as well as religion, when we can learn our duty to God without a knowledge of these things? For you have told man that wisdom is fearing the Lord. Even if Manes did not have this true wisdom, he could still have had a very good knowledge of science. But as he knew no science and yet had the effrontery to try to teach it, he could not possibly have had true wisdom. For it is sheer vanity for a man to profess his learning, even if it is well-founded, whereas it is his duty to you, O God, to confess his sins. Manes departed from this duty. He wrote at great length on scientific subjects only to be proved wrong by genuine scientists, thereby making perfectly clear the true nature of his insight into more abstruse matters. Because he did not want them to think lightly of him, he tried to convince his followers that the Holy Spirit, who comforts and enriches your faithful servants, was present in him personally and with full powers. Therefore, when he was shown to be wrong in what he said about the sky and the stars and the movements of the sun and the moon, it was obvious that he was guilty of sacrilegious presumption, because, although these matters are no part of religious doctrine, he was not only ignorant of the subjects which he taught, but also taught what was false, yet was demented and conceited enough to claim that his utterances were those of a divine person. Whenever I hear a brother Christian talk in such a way as to show that he is ignorant of these scientific matters and confuses one thing with another, I listen with patience to his theories and think it no harm to him that he does not know the true facts about material things, provided that he holds no beliefs unworthy of you, O Lord, who are the creator of them all. The danger lies in thinking that such knowledge is part and parcel of what he must believe to save his soul, and in presuming to make obstinate declarations about things of which he knows nothing. Yet when a man first enters the cradle of the faith, charity, his mother, will show indulgence even to failings of this sort, until the new man reaches perfect manhood and cannot be driven before the wind of each new doctrine. But Manes dared to pose as teacher, sole authority, guide, and leader of all whom he could convince of his theories, leading his followers to believe that they were following no ordinary man, but your Holy Spirit. Surely then, once he had been detected in error, everyone would agree that he was a madman and that his claims were repugnant and should be entirely rejected. All the same, I was not yet entirely satisfied that his writings might not contain a plausible explanation of the variations in the length of the day and the night, the alternation of night and day, eclipses, and the other phenomena of which I had read elsewhere. If his theories were admissible, I should have been undecided whether he or the scientists were right, but I might have chosen to accept his authority because of his reputed sanctity. We live in a bizarro time. Let's say that you are a nuclear engineer and you see a post somewhere online that is erroneously talking about nuclear power. So you, as an engineer that works with nuclear power, makes a correction to the post in the comment section. Inevitably, someone will pipe up and lash out at that engineer, telling him that unless he has a doctorate in nuclear engineering, he should keep his opinions to himself. When our engineer replies that he does in fact have a doctorate in nuclear engineering, that person will then dismiss him, saying that he's just biased and doesn't really know anything at all. He's all book smart and not street smart. It's like you cannot win. The internet has allowed everyone to think that they are an expert in everything and that nobody else is an expert in anything. which is why I always stress, go read the primary sources of things or the primary sources of people's writings to see what has really been said, or you can just start to uncover the truth. Unfortunately, for most people, there are only two criteria for people to believe in something or someone. Number one, I like the charisma of the person delivering it. They're edgy, they're confident, they're handsome or pretty, they're real, they're raw. Or oftentimes they're just very loud, and whoever says the things the loudest is often deemed most right, which isn't true. The second criteria is that it matches my preconceived notions. They're just parroting what I want to hear. So for many, it doesn't really matter if you have the truth on your side. People will just listen to you and believe you if you just say it confidently, persuasively, and you act like you know what you are talking about, even if you really have no clue. This is the problem St. Augustine starts to see with the writings of Mainz. Remember, he's the founder of Manichaeism. Mainz doesn't really know what he's talking about, especially when it comes to scientific stuff. He's just wrong. But he acts like he knows what he's talking about, and he says it confidently, and so people have believed him. St. Augustine says, quote, "But Mainz dared to pose as a teacher, sole authority, guide, and leader of all who he could convince of his theories, leading his followers to believe that they were following no ordinary man, but your Holy Spirit," unquote. Now, so many people do this. They claim to have authority, but really don't, and yet tons of people follow them. But then you might have someone who really does have authority, like our nuclear engineer in the beginning, and really does know what they're talking about, but nobody will listen, and in fact, they will reject them outright. So how do we make sure that we don't fall into this trap? Well, number one, realize that all human beings can make mistakes and say wrong things. No human is immune from this. Not everything that your guy that you like says is true. Number two, if someone has to use theatrics and propaganda and like a show to deliver their message, well, be wary. The packaging is often there to hide a lack of truth, especially if it has dark, foreboding music. That is always like a dead giveaway for me. Number three, read primary sources. Those things written from the source. Be curious, investigate, and be willing to change your mind if proven wrong through facts. That is all for today, Catholic Pilgrims. We'll have more on the Manichaees tomorrow, but until then, live the faith boldly and travel well.